at World Talk Radio. Educate, enlighten, and entertain. Thank you for joining us today on the most important 15 minutes of your day, where we share expert information on safety and preparedness that you can use in your everyday life. I'm Shannon Zeman, a battle-tested warrior, a wife of a police officer, proud mom of 2 boys, and a breast cancer survivor. I'm so thrilled that you're here with me today. With Halloween tomorrow, I wanted to talk about a popular trend that's out there that's dangerous for our kids. Have you heard of THC gummies? Goodies? Well, gummies and goodies. These goodies come in all forms of gummies, hard candies, chocolate bars, even baked goods. These type of recreational and medicinal THC products are rarely regulated, and if consumed, they can cause hospitalization or even death in children. So when you're out this Halloween, do you know if this is a trick or a treat? So today on this topic, I have my friend Bill Hume here with us, and he's an expert at drug recognition. Bill has been married to his high school sweetheart, and they have 2 sons that they homeschool. The oldest one has special needs, and Bill says has taught him many lessons in patience. Officer Hume has worked various assignments in his 13 years of law enforcement, which include DUI and traffic training and enforcement. He enjoys teaching and educating officers and civilians like us on the evolving traffic and drug trends. One of Bill's expertise is CBD and THC. And that's why I've invited him here to talk to us and educate us on this topic, because I don't know about you, but I really am clueless on all of this. So thank you for being here, Bill. It's so great.
Thank you, Shannon, for having me on Passionate Talk Radio. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So one of the first questions is, can you tell us a little bit about the THC goodies, the products, and just inform us on that?
Yeah, so when we talk about THC, we're talking about tetrahydrocannabinol, which is the active psychoactive ingredient in cannabis. So these goodie products come in all various forms that you can think of. So we're talking about baked goods, from pies to candies to gummies, anything that you can bake or you can cook in an oven, you can essentially infuse THC into. Oh. So when we talk about that, that's what we're referring to.
Wow. Okay. So when I was going through chemotherapy for breast cancer, and they were recommending that I possibly look into it for my pain, Troy and I, my husband, we researched some of it, even went to a dispensary, and I was shocked as to, it literally looked like I was in the grocery store candy section. And so how is it for parents how do we decipher? Like, I had no clue what the heck. How do I know when my kids go out trick-or-treating, when they're bringing something back, that it has THC in it? Because I was surprised that a lot of them don't smell or taste like it either.
Yeah, so that's the scariest part about these THC-infused candies and edibles that we're actually seeing. It's very hard to decipher what is an actual THC candy, THC food, compared to what an actual candy bar is. I mean, they are made to look exactly like candies when you look at them. So one of the biggest things, especially the legitimate market for this stuff, is you look at the packaging on it, and you have to look very closely at it, and you'll see that it says it has THC inside of it. At least for us and our kids in our neighborhoods, we trust a lot of the neighbors that we go to when we're going trick-or-treating. But I think the concern, at least for parents with getting these THC candies, is if you went to a neighborhood and you weren't familiar with it, and people are giving out goodies to harm children, and they weren't paying attention, and your kid grabs a piece of candy out and wasn't looking at it, that's where that confusion can come in, because it would look just like a Reese's or a gummy bear to those kids. They wouldn't be able to tell without the parents. So I'd recommend to parents to look at every piece of candy. I mean, your kids are going to have big bags of candy that are coming in, but the most important thing for their safety is looking through every item that comes in and looking at that packaging. If it looks like it's open, if it looks like anything different from what the market is, just throw it away. Don't even risk it.
Okay. Yeah, because I know, my boys are in high school and junior high, and they'll actually talk about kids like having gummies even in class, and the teachers have no clue what's happening, because it literally looks like they just opened up like a bag of gummy bears.
Yes.
So how much THC can be in these goodies, and what is typically your like milligrams of a medical dose?
Well, that's a good question, Shannon. So thanks for asking. So the scary part about these edibles that kids are consuming is that, these doses are ranging in THC. So today's THC that we talk about, it's not like the THC that, people are used to seeing in the movies, from Woodstock, that we're not talking about 3% THC. We can be talking about something that's almost 99% pure THC.
Wow.
And some of these doses that kids are taking, they could have a candy bar, and that's made to have 10 doses of THC in that, each dose containing 5 milligrams of THC in it. So if they're eating that entire candy bar, we're going to have a lot of implications with that.
Right.
It also comes in liquid form, so it looks like they're consuming like a soda, and that could have almost 100 milligrams.
I've never heard that.
Yeah, so that could have every dose in there, and it'll tell you, hey, you're only supposed to drink this much out of that dose, like a couple ounces of it, and kids are going to consume that whole thing. And that's where we're going to start seeing a lot of issues. And it's very scary because people don't read the packaging on stuff. People say, hey, I'm supposed to take 2 Advil, and they take 5 Advil.
Right.
And especially if it's an off-market product with the THC, the scary part is people could make it however they want. They could say, oh, it contains 5 milligrams of THC, but it could have 10, it could have 20 inside of it.
So how would you... that just blows my mind. What about the sodas? I hadn't even heard about the sodas, but that would just, what could happen if a person of any age consumes, let's say, that entire candy bar or drinks all of that soda in a single serving? What do we do when that happens, or what would you recommend us doing?
So as a parent, if something like that were to happen, the first and foremost thing, obviously, to call 911. Get some medical professional help. Now, a lot of people have heard about cannabis, and I guess the big rumor is everyone says, no, it doesn't cause an overdose. You're not going to die from overdose on cannabis, and you hear that. We talk about THC, it's tetrahydrocannabinol, and it works on something called the endogenous cannabinoid system in all of our human bodies that we all have. Now, that works on something called CB1 receptors that are in our brain. The lowest amount of CB1 receptors we have is in our brainstem, and that controls our breathing and our heart rate. So with overdoses on drugs like this, you're not going to see your typical heart stopping, the respiratory system being depressed. You're not going to see things like that.
Okay.
What you are going to see is hallucinations. You're going to see people doing the swan dive off of balconies where they're harming themselves, stepping out into traffic. Now, the American Heart Association has already come out and said that THC for young kids is very bad for their heart. So it could cause long-lasting repercussions for these kids if they were to consume a large amount of it, which is very, very scary. So getting medical professional help immediately is one of the most important things for as a parent.
Okay. And so let's just say that my kid, whether it's trick-or-treating like we're talking about right now, or maybe a friend thinks it's funny and gives them one and not let them know really what's happening. And so what would you, as like a parent, because I don't understand, what would be the steps for me to help my child like get through that moment, or to deal with that, or even to educate them to kind of see or understand what their friends might be handing them?
Yeah, so it's very hard with especially with the younger generation. Like my 2 boys, they're not of high school age yet, but they're getting there up in age. And there's that influence with high school kids. Say, hey, this is cool. Let's take this. They're going to see people that are consuming it, or they might be going through it. And I've seen high school kids, at least where I work as a police officer, where kids have taken it, and it caused a lot of anxiety and panic attacks. So having that calm in the moment, if they were to consume it, or you did catch your kid consuming it on purpose with one of their friends, calming them down and letting them know is going to cause a rise in that heart rate, first of all. So they're going to have a rise in that heart rate and that blood pressure, and that anxiety is going to be going through the roof. So as a parent, if you're yelling at them, you're screaming at them in that moment, that's not the way to deal with it. You're going to make their heart rate go up a little bit higher, and we really want to protect the heart or the cardiac in that situation. So explain to them, the long-term repercussions for kids, especially if they see their friends or their family consuming this. It has long-term implications on the heart and especially the brain. There's something in your brain called anandamide, and cannabis works on the reuptake of that. And that's a pleasure hormone in your brain. And as young kids, in the time they're taking it, they say, oh, this feels so good, and it's so happy. But when they turn 25 and their brain stops developing and they're in their 30s, it's going to have long-term repercussions with depression, anxiety, panic attacks, and it is not good.
So Lesson learned, don't scream at your children when it's happening. You really teach them and to straighten them out afterwards, after you know that they're safe and everything like that. Well, it's incredible, all these dangers that are out there. I mean, my husband's a police officer and I knew a little bit of it, but you've already educated me like beyond this. So I am sure we're going to have Bill back on again, because I have so many questions for you and getting to know all of these different things of cannabis and THC and everything. So I want to thank you, Bill, so much for being on the show today and sharing your expertise with us. Like, my mind is still blown about that soda. I hadn't even heard anything about the soda yet. Is there anything that you would want to add, for the people listening that you think would be a great takeaway for them out of this?
I think the most important things for us, at least as parents, is we want to keep our kids safe. So at the end of the day, that's the most important thing to us. And, kids don't like us to hover with them while we're doing trick or treat.
Right.
They want to go out, they want to be independent, but sometimes having that parent there, even just in the background, that's really going to dissuade those people from doing bad things to our kids, from giving out bad candy, from thinking that they're alone coming up to their house. And I'm overly protective because I'm a police officer, just like your husband. But
Right.
I think that's so important for our kids and explain them the dangers that are out there. We don't want to scare them to the point they think the world is so bad out there, but we want them to know there are people that are out there to harm them and give them bad candy like that, especially during Halloween time. They should be enjoying themselves out there going trick-or-treating.
Right. I love that. That is awesome. That's a huge takeaway, I think. I know I have the tendency to hover a lot too, and my kids are now 16 and 13 and they're like, let me be, and it's so hard. But you've given us some amazing information, and I really want to thank you so much for doing that. It's going to help us keep our kids safe for Halloween and just every day. So I appreciate you so much being here, sharing. I know you have so much knowledge, and we've had to bring it right back in, but so we'll definitely be touching your expertise quite a lot. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on, Shannon. I appreciate it.
Yes, of course. And join us next Monday when we have on Troy Zeman, my husband, and he's a specialist on active shooter, and we're going to talk a lot about active shooter training and how to be prepared if you're ever in that type of situation. Lots of information. It will be really great. And thank you so much for listening to Passionate World Talk Radio. You've just listened to the most important 15 minutes of your day with me, Shannon Zeman. You can listen to this podcast all over social media. Just remember, with knowledge, you have the power. Fall asleep. I could have asked one more question, but I don't really know. Lillian, where'd you go?
Yeah, we probably could have asked, like, if you're trick-or-treating and your kid starts to seem different, what would be the objective symptoms that a parent would have to look for? Now, objective symptoms is something that we use, but like, what are the signs if my kid ate something?
So when you walked away to go take care of the cat, he said that.
Okay, good.
We could always, you can use something like that for a future one too.
Yeah.
And say, hey, like, keeping your kids safe with like drugs and stuff like that.
Well, we're going to use that one on because these high schoolers have it all in their school, and we're going to definitely, like, if you see your kid come home and they have some objective symptoms, these are symptoms you're looking for. So we'll definitely use it. But I think 13 minutes, 20 seconds is good.
It's perfect. Well, when you look at, like, so for me, when you do a podcast, like, you look it up and you see how long it is first. And when you're like, oh, podcast is too long, you skip to the next one. When you see when it's like 15, 13 minutes, I'm going to listen to that for my drive because it's really good.
And that's what Lillian told her.
We finished
like
filming, but it's still going.
People can drive to work and listen to the whole thing.
Perfect. Yeah.
Well, did we record it, or do we need to do it again? Okay.
It says it's still recording.
It says that it's still recording. Oh, there she is. Okay, my hand.
There she is.